Hello there, you're watching TVS News at 5 p.m. With me, Lorenzo Isaac. Let's begin with our top story. A new classification of permanent forests will be introduced in the Forest Amendment Bill 2022 to enhance community participation in promoting the preservation and sustainable use of forests for studies. The establishment of the AMENITY forest is intended for research, educational and recreational purposes in line with the state's government's deep commitment to protecting the forests and encouraging the people to connect to nature.
The state government is deeply committed in protecting the forest and are encouraging the rakyat to connect to nature through recreation, nature appreciations and volunteerism by adopting unique model of collaborative management of forests. Likewise, in Peninsular Malaysia, they have Taman Eko Rimba, Hutan Pendidikan, and Hutan Lipur, to name a few.
Second Minister of Natural Resources and Urban Development, Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan, said this when tabling the second reading of the proposed bill in the State Legislative Assembly sitting today. The bill seeks to amend the Forest Ordinance, which has been in force since 1st June 2015. On the passing of the bill, forest produce will include carbon stocks and greenhouse gas GHG stocks produced through licensed forest carbon activity undertaken in our permanent forests, in state and alienated land. As such, the bill will provide for more mechanisms to ensure no double counting of carbon stocks and carbon credit units and the process of reporting to the federal government. He added that the carbon stocks and carbon credit units generated in Sarawak would form part of the nationally determined contribution to be submitted by Malaysia to UNFCCC in accordance with the Paris Agreement.
Sarawak is eyeing a new source of revenue with an annual estimated worth of 315 million ringgit through the forest carbon activities. This is based on the current World Bank carbon price of $5 per ton carbon, with the estimation that 30% of the permanent forest has carbon-yielding carbon credit units at the rate of 200 ton carbon/hectare.
Second Minister of Natural Resources and Urban Development, Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan, pointed out that under the Forest Amendment Bill 2022, a license for forest carbon activity would be issued upon payment of necessary fees and charges.
Through carbon sequestration, contribute the balance of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and humidity in the air. Thus, the amendments proposed in the bill will strengthen the state government's effort towards sustainable management of our forests to achieve a better and sustainable future for all Sarawakians in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as an opportunity.
Tengah noted that Sarawak has a total land area of approximately 12.4 million hectares, currently comprising 7.7 million hectares, or 62%, is still under forest cover areas. Under the Sarawak Land Use Policy, 7 million hectares has been earmarked for sustainable forestry and conservation. Out of this, 6 million hectares are permanent forests, PFS, and 1 million hectares are totally protected areas, TPAS. From these forested areas, carbon sequestration can be carried out to form carbon stocks, and carbon credit units can be derived.
Rapid population growth and economic development may reduce the amount of carbon absorbed by forests and put pressure on the environment, which poses harm to the future of Sarawak. Tanjung Datu Assemblyman Azizul Anwar Adenan said it is timely to introduce the Forest Amendment Bill, which is aimed at improving the management of Sarawak's forests and the natural resources in these forests.
Forests are an important part of the cycle in both storing and releasing this essential element in a process of growth, disturbance, decay, and renewal. For the past 40 years, forests have moderated climate change by absorbing up to 25% of the carbon emitted by human activities. Rapid population growth and economic development put intense pressure on the environment. Between 1990 and 2020, an area larger than Germany was deforested and over half of it was in Indonesia. YB Speaker, sir, with these facts that I have just presented, it is high time that the government introduces where this new law will provide a new dynamic in Sarawak.
He further added in his Forest Amendment Bill 2022 debate that the state would benefit monetary-wise from these changes, citing that major companies from around the world would finance an entity to offset their carbon emissions.
Carbon storage or carbon credit could be monetized if needed, and it would be a new revenue stream for our state. And in this case, it could be beneficial for landowners too, as they are entitled to participate in carbon trading. I would like to take the example of Delta Airlines, a United States Airlines, based on a report by Reuters news agency that it is planning to spend more than $30 million to offset 13 million metric tons of carbon emissions over 10 months last year as part of its pledge to combat climate change.
The Sarawak government could not determine the pace to process applications for citizenship of stateless children in the state, as the matter comes under the purview of the federal government. Sarawak Women, Early Childhood and Community Wellbeing Minister Datuk Sri Fatimah Abdullah said while it was her ministry's wish to see the process could be hastened, it is being done by the Home Affairs Ministry and the matter was not discussed under the present devolution of power exercise.
The issue of citizenship, even with reference to the Intergovernmental Committee or IGC report, MA 63, as well as the federal constitution, has always been agreed to be a federal matter.
She said this when replying to Meradong Assemblyman Dato' Ding Kwong Hing at the State Legislative Assembly sitting today. Ding had wanted to know whether the state government planned to speed up the process of tackling stateless children issues, apart from just issuing temporary documents to them following the re-establishment of a special committee on citizenship status. Fatimah also pointed out a special committee was formed in 2016 to facilitate the consideration of citizenship applications received in Sarawak.
Welcome back. The 0.15 increase on Malaysia's overnight policy rate has maintained the country's relevance in terms of monetary policy, which indicates the country's financial strength to maneuver within its monetary landscape. According to Chief Economist from Juwai IQI, Shan Said, the 2.00% discount rate puts Malaysia at a competitive stand compared to other states in the region.
Not really, Yusuf. If you look at the region, Malaysia is still very competitive, is still on the lower side. If you look at Vietnam, the OPR rate or the discount rate is 2.5. Indonesia is 3.5. Philippines is 2.25. The only country that has got the lowest is Thailand, which is 0.5. And Malaysia is still very competitive in terms of monetary policy, which is at 2%. So your monetary policy actually reflects your strength and confidence of the central bank. Bank Negara still has got a lot of room to maneuver in terms of monetary landscape. So I think Malaysia is still very competitive, not expensive.
He also remarked that the OPR percentage was higher before the pandemic, but was reduced to 1.75% in order to support the country's economy.
And most of the governments, they use monetary policy and fiscal policy to keep the momentum. It was very challenging. In 2020, most of the economies were in red. The GDP went down. In 2021, as economies opened up, the GDP started going into green and they were positive. So I think the amalgamation of fiscal and monetary policy is necessary, and Bank Negara has done a timely move at this point of time.
Previously, Bank Negara Malaysia's decision to raise the OPR rate had many concern over their loan rates. Though it will have a slight increase, Shan seconded the motion that it won't be burdensome to the people, rather a win-win situation for both the banks and their clients.
The ringgit slid further to open lower at 4 ringgit 40 cents against the US dollar, the lowest since March 2020, following a hawkish stance by the US Federal Reserve (FED) to tighten its monetary policy. At 9:19 a.m., the local note stood at 4.4050/4080 versus the greenback from Wednesday close of 4.3960/3975.
The ringgit hit a record low on March 23, 2020, when it reached approximately 4 ringgit and 45 cents. Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Zanizam Abdul Rashid said, "This is a reflection of heightened economic uncertainties, which in the current context is about the prospect of higher interest rate in the US and inflation outlook." On Tuesday, US Federal Chair Jerome Powell said the Fed would keep raising rates until inflation comes down. Muhammad Afzanizam said major central banks are also likely to tighten their grip on monetary policy as inflation seems to be pervasive. Besides, he said recession also appears to be the buzzword these days, which has resulted in higher demand for risk-free assets such as the US Treasury bonds.
Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin congratulates Malaysia for no major spike in COVID-19 post-Raya celebration. Khairi attributed this achievement to the responsibilities of Malaysians and their willingness to learn to live with the virus in the transition to the endemic phase.
Met by reporters after officiating the World Asthma Day 2022 conference in Kuala Lumpur, Khairi said Malaysians still practice good habits such as wearing face masks. He said that Malaysians have what it takes to survive the transition into the endemic phase of COVID-19, noting that Malaysia's highest vaccination rates have also helped to bring down the number of serious cases in the country. Earlier, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah warned that there could be a slight increase in COVID-19 cases after Hari Raya Aidilfitri celebrations. However, he said most of the cases would be under categories 1 and 2.
And that is all for TVS News at 5. See the world closer with TVS as we bring you the latest news updates both locally and internationally. Just a click away by heading onto our website at www.tvstv.my or follow us on our social media. For TVS Nightline tonight at 11:30 p.m. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching.